everyone, Cheryl Benanti from Reiki Will Travel, and today I'm here with Angela Marie, the Intuitive Astrologer. Welcome, Angela. So glad you can join us today via Zoom, and thanks for our figuring this out ahead of time.
Thanks for having
So,
me.
yeah, so welcome. And, I'm happy to have you here. And like I said, we're just going to kind of chat about some things and let people know, or more people know, I should say, what you do and how you do it and how everything kind of came to be and what your story is. I mean, I've known you, I don't know how many years now, probably seven
Been a
at
while.
least.
At least
And
7 or 8 years, yeah.
and you know, we've seen each other and passed each other and here and there and everywhere it seems. And I like to delve in deep. I like to just see, I mean, what I know about you is you're a kind person and we get along very well. We are in the same circles and what is astrology exactly? Like for the layman person listening or interested and not necessarily knowing, what would you say breaking it down in the easiest terms would be?
So think of astrology as like your path forward. Think of it as like a
Mhm.
stamp in the sky from the moment you took your first breath. So when somebody comes to see me, what I do first is I ask for their date, time, and location of birth so that I can draw up a map of your chart so I can actually see what's going on, what personality traits you have, what challenges you have, what strengths you have. And then from there, what I do is I take the transiting planets. So you have your chart, which is a snapshot of the sky, and then the planets that are moving now. And what they do is they form planets and they form configurations and they tell me how to tell your future and how to go forward. So it's cycles and timing.
Okay, that's so interesting. And you can get that all from the simple information that people can come prepared with and give to you. You said time of birth, day necessarily, and
And
location.
location. Yep.
Wow, wow,
And if you
fantastic.
don't have that, because a lot of times, like a lot of people will have their date, time, and location of birth, but sometimes you don't. It's the truth. Like
Mm,
sometimes, like I find a lot of times if you're born in a different country, you may not know.
mm,
Um, it really depends. Like sometimes even like some of my boomers, like they just don't have it on their birth certificate. So what I offer is a service called a rectification. And what it essentially is it's a reverse engineering of your chart. So I sit with you and I ask you a series of questions. And then from that, I can reverse engineer your birth chart and get your rising sign for you.
Oh, wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah,
I
and just
know
so for
people.
anybody that doesn't know, like your rising sign is the sign that was rising on the easternmost horizon when you were born.
Okay, easternmost. Okay,
Yep, and
okay.
that's what starts your chart. That's where you took your first breath.
Okay. All right, that is fantastic. That's such good information because I know people are like, I don't know what happens if I don't know. Can I still do this session? And that's a good clarification for people
Yep.
that are curious and maybe don't have all that information. So you have a plan B if that is the case. So that's great. Okay.
Yeah, and I
Right.
always tell everybody, it's not something that I can do at the fairs just because it takes a little bit more time, but it
Mm-hmm.
is something that I do offer privately.
Oh, I love that. That's great. That's a good clarification too, because I know there's lots of people coming to the fairs and waiting and wanting information and wanting to know what they need to do or what they can do going forward.
Right.
And that's perfect. I know you can only squeeze in so much at those events, so we appreciate that. But that's good to
I
know that you
like
can
to
offer
call
that privately.
I like to call the fairs my 20-minute tour.
I love that. I'm going to use that. That's a good one. Okay, 20-minute tour. So out of your services, so that kind of being, maybe two offerings, what are some other offerings that you have that kind of are all in this hub of astrology? And what's maybe your favorite thing or the thing you like to do most of?
My favorite thing, my specialty is predictions. It's what I was trained in.
Hmm.
Um, I do mundane astrology also, which is basically astrology for the world. You have to be able to do that in order to predict for a person.
Okay.
Um, so my normal offerings are predictive readings where you come in, you see what's going on, you see how to plan forward. And again, it spans anything from career to relationships to planning for your business. But it could also be family planning. and looking at windows of time and when it is best to do things. It's also great if you have a business and you want to know when's the best time for me to start my business, when's the best time for me to advertise for my business, when's the best time for me to have an event, when's the
Hmm.
best time for me to travel. Like these are all the things. And if you're having a really challenging time, it also helps to see like how do I get through this challenge, right?
Hmm.
Those are my two most popular readings because I offer them in 30-minute and 1 hour. Then I do something called a soul compass reading, which is evolutionary astrology, which is different from Western tropical astrology and the predictions, which is what I specialize in.
Okay.
Evolutionary astrology is wonderful. One of my mentors, Jeffrey Wolf Green, um, an amazing, amazing man who channeled this information. And what you do is you're actually looking at a person's soul and what their purpose is here. A lot of us sometimes we get caught in loops and cycles, and we're not quite sure why we keep repeating the same patterns.
Hmm.
When you look at it from an evolutionary astrology perspective, you can actually show somebody their patterns and how they're having a hard time. And I always tell everybody once you do that reading and you only need it once, you can actually take that and go to a therapist or make the adjustments on your own so that you stop repeating those patterns so that your soul can move forward. I was it's not so much like it looks at your past life, but not in the perspective of like, oh, you were Cleopatra in your last life or anything like that. It
Hmm.
looks at like your past life's residue and like the patterns and the behaviors that you carried forward and the things that you need to work on. And I think every single person on the planet, me included as the astrologer, have those things that we have to work on. So that's
Hmm.
another offering that I do. And then what I have is another one called Manifestation Station. And Manifestation Station looks at the sun, the moon, Venus, Mercury, and Mars. And it shows me how you personally manifest in your life. There's a lot of information out there on manifestation, and I don't think that there's one like solid way to do manifestation. But when you look at it from the perspective of your birth chart, again, it shows me your challenges and your strengths and how you attract and repel things.
Hmm.
And if you look at Mercury, which is your mind, and if you look at the sun, which is your vitality, if you look at Venus, which is the magnet, and then you look at Mars, which is the action based planet, it shows me how you do all of those things to go forward to get what you need in this life. And
Wow.
what's really great is it again, it can show you behaviors or thought patterns that you have, and that's your Mercury, to show you how am I holding myself back? How am I repelling? Because Venus is a magnet and she
Hmm.
attracts and repels. And it's very important that that planet is happy in order for things to function properly.
Wow. That's so, I just am in awe every time I hear bits and pieces or like a summary like what you just described, that so many things can be so apparent to, someone like yourself reading, for example, me or whoever your client is in front of you. And it's like help is right in front of us and we don't even see it. I feel like that's a lot of that. And we can
Yeah, well,
just
I think a lot of times, like I said, everyone we get caught in these thought patterns,
mhm.
and the story you tell yourself is the story that's going to happen in your life.
Correct.
Mercury is the mind. If and I always say, I make the joke all the time, if you could master Mercury on your chart, then you can master the whole chart. That's
Right.
the thing. Because if Mercury isn't happy and the sun is depleted, which is your vitality, well, then Venus isn't going to be happy and then Mars can't go and do his job. That's the thing.
And they
That's
all
the
work
triangle.
together.
And they
Yeah.
all work together. And the moon
Yes.
is kind of like, think of the moon as like the guy that goes out and scans the whole situation. How does this person feel? What's
Hmm.
going on today? The moon goes out and collects the information for all the other planets. So it really is like a wonderful reading to help you, again, kind of pinpoint where you need to make those changes within yourself.
Hmm. That's fantastic. And so kind of circling back a little bit, I know you mentioned about your mentor. That was one of my questions. Did you have multiple mentors? Was it one? Was this an interest of your family as a whole? Is this how you kind of grew up with this
So the
as
funny
a
thing is when I was born, my grandmother, I traveled between here and Italy my entire childhood.
Mhm.
My mother was born there, and my
What part of Italy?
grandmother, Valenza. So they settled in Valenza, but we're from southern, which we're from Caserta and Benevento, which is
Wow.
southern
Okay.
Italy.
Yeah.
So when I was born, my grandmother flew in and they're like waiting to see like who was it going to be.
Hmm.
My mother wanted to name me Gabriella, and my grandmother said, no, she is the one. Her name is Angela Marie, which translates to messenger of the sea of the stars, because my moon is in Pisces.
Wow.
And it's kind of funny, like the name Angela also means like somebody who could deliver messages between worlds. So that was really the inception of it. That's where I started. And instead of doing like, you know, everybody's played the game memory as a child, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Instead of playing memory, I was playing memory with the planets and memorizing the symbols.
Wow.
Um, and then from there, I just started to read, and my goodness, Jeffrey Wolf Green was a big one. Robert Hand, who's absolutely brilliant. Alice Bailey, who is an esoteric astrologer who I heavily studied as well.
Hmm.
Um, and then I got into medieval astrology and Arabic astrology because it's really the basis of what I'm doing now.
Okay.
So I studied Abu Mashar, who is was amazing in mundane astrology, and I learned a lot from his text. And I just kind of took it, and what I did was I evolved it from that point, because
Hmm.
context from ancient times can't be context of how we live now. So you
Right.
have to carry it forward. But I also studied astronomy because you have to understand how the planets move and the
Yeah,
nature of
exactly.
their movement and how they
Yep.
behave in that way. And I also studied anthropology, and I studied different cultures along with studying each astrological sign and the animals that represent them, especially, and also, you know, Libra is the only one that has scales. It's a machine.
Hmm.
Um, and the behaviors of those animals. And I also put that into it. And then it's just practice, honestly and truly, and understanding that all of this functions on a spectrum. So even when you have twins in front of you who have the same birth chart where their planets are only separated by what are called arc minutes, you can tell the difference between the two because their
Yeah.
personalities express in a different way,
Totally. Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, very good friends of mine, they're identical twins. And it's funny because when I first met them, I was 4 and I could always tell them apart. Even like my own family could never tell them apart. I'm like, they have different hair, they have this, they have that. Like, no, you can see like that's the way she walks or what like it was so
yep.
different. And of course, absolutely personality differences as well. But identical twins in particular, people have always had a hard time like picking people apart, like as far as who's who, but honestly, when you kind of are tuned into those differences, and especially astrologically, you can see those differences right away, I'm sure. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. So fantastic. So okay, so yes, it was in your family, and yes, you had mentors. Holy cow,
Yeah.
you were and all the research, it's like so multi-layered,
Yeah, so I would be
what you
considered a
offer.
researching astrology because I don't stop. Like I just keep going.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, because with when you are a practicing astrologer, um, you have to keep researching. You have to keep learning. We don't have a full understanding. You know, the planet Pluto is like a beautiful example of this. We discovered it in 1930.
Mhm.
So, and it takes 248 years to go around a zodiac wheel. And we discovered it, I believe it was in the constellation of Gemini when we discovered it. So it hasn't gone around fully. So we don't have a full understanding of it. So all of the information that we collect now with it being in the constellation of Aquarius is brand new. I could
Mhm.
tell you about Aquarius and I could tell you about Pluto, but I'm not 100% sure of how the expression of that planet will be in Aquarius. We have a full
Mhm.
understanding now of Capricorn because we all went through it. We
Mhm.
all went through it together. So for future astrologers, they'll be studying what we record so that when it comes back around again, they can have our information and implement it.
Yeah, that's so important. I know in some practices that I do, I try to document things, outcomes, what worked, what didn't work, what worked really
Right.
well, and like, holy cow, I'll never do that again, kind of thing. So
Yep.
you probably have the same thing, documenting things, keeping track of things, and hopefully passing it on to, someone in your family or someone that can use
Well,
that, even
it's kind of
other
funny because
astrologers. Yeah.
astrology is one of those things where there's a lot of shared information, but
Hmm.
there's a lot of gate kept information. There's
Okay.
stuff that
Like the secret stuff?
yes, even when you work with a mentor, with
Hmm.
some things, they'll go figure it out. They
Okay.
won't give you the answer, and you have to go figure it out on your own.
Mm.
So I always say you can get to a certain point, you have to have a mentor, and some of the things you will learn on your own.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's so interesting to me. I mean, it's like, kind of um everybody's test, right? Go see what you can find on your own and then circle back with me and I'll see if you're right.
Yep.
Or what I can
Exactly.
learn. I feel like some of
Exactly.
that is also so they can learn from you. I think the mentorship is a two-way street, right?
Yeah.
Mentors can always learn from their mentees as well. So I think that's part of that relationship too, and it's good to be comfortable with all of them, or at least the one that you work with the most. So
Absolutely.
I mean, you can trust this person with their life is pretty much how I look at that. Um,
Yep.
Secrets, whatever, they have their best intention and vice versa. So I love that. That's so interesting to me. All of it is, truthfully. And I know we talked about, you had said earlier about cycling out of patterns and cycles and things and having people come and take this to their therapist. So with that being said, therapists, do you find them open to it or more are becoming open to it? And also what other collaborations do you do or have you worked with that has been most beneficial?
So I find it really depends on the therapist. They have to be open
Hmm.
to a more holistic approach.
Okay.
Um, it's just not for everyone. Unfortunately, astrology was removed from the medical community and from the scientific community. So again, you have to find the right person to work with.
Okay.
As far as collaborations go, oh my gosh, I've worked with Reiki healers, which is great. So somebody will come for a reading and then they'll get their energy cleared.
Hmm.
Or sound healing, I find is wonderful to pair up with astrology because I always say like energy rings out like a gong, right?
Yes. Yes.
And people don't understand like, that vibration goes out. And a perfect example of that is, about, I think it was a year and a half ago, we had Mars in the constellation of Cancer and it went retrograde. And that doesn't happen very often. And right now we have Jupiter in the constellation of Cancer going over the same spot, essentially hitting that same vibrational pattern and reacting, or what's the word I'm looking for? It's hitting the same part again, so it's kind of bringing that energy back. Okay,
Okay. Yep.
so like what you were working on then, now Jupiter is kind of reinforcing.
Gotcha.
So that's why I like to do it with sound therapy, is because that's the way sound works. It just it reverberates out
Yes.
and it
Yes.
hits
Yeah.
patterns.
Yeah,
Um,
I,
so
I never would have put those two things together, but now that you explain it, I think that makes so much sense. Both,
mhm,
Reiki practitioners as well as sound healers.
yep,
I'm always curious about that and how you want your client to get the best benefit or their most benefit, and those
yep,
two things, either or. I always think that's a great way to really, I wouldn't say they would have a better experience, but I think giving them the best experience, right, with those things
yeah,
happening at the same time that's phenomenal.
yeah.
That's such a
I like it.
great
I think it's a more
tool.
expansive experience.
Yeah.
And I also sometimes one of my favorite things to do is to work with a very like a well-trained medium. So if you read a chart and the medium kind of locks in with you,
Hmm.
and if I'm looking at something that's happening, let's say, in a different country, if you're looking for like a world event or something that'll happen, a
Sure.
medium can actually tap in and actually I could bring you to one level and then the medium can bring you further. It's actually pretty neat to watch.
It's like opening a door, then opening another door. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it feels. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, this is wonderful. So does any particular client stick out in your mind? Maybe it was the first one, maybe it was the 100th one. Any particular memory that is really vivid for you working with someone, or like you're like, oh my God, I can't believe how much this person has changed, or how much, work they've done and how much they've improved since we worked together? Anything
Um,
really kind of stick out in your mind as far as
I've had a
progression?
couple.
Yeah.
I was working with a gentleman for a few years, um, who was having a really difficult Pluto transit, honestly. He was really getting hit hard. But the last appointment that I had with him, I remember I opened his chart and the first words out of my mouth were, "Oh my gosh, you bought a ring." And he goes, "I did."
Wow.
And he had like
Yeah.
finally moved through this really difficult
Mhm.
situation
Yeah.
and was getting married. And he said, "This is probably our last phone call, but I have to thank you because you've helped me so much." So that's one of my favorites.
Oh,
Um,
wow. That's
I've had
beautiful.
a woman come to me, and I don't do medical astrology.
Okay.
For me, it's just a huge liability, and I just don't
Yeah.
think, I think, we have doctors for that, but there are certain indicators where you can see if something is coming or majorly going to happen to you physically. And I did tell one woman, I was like, "Have you gone to the doctor?"
Hmm.
And she said yes. And she goes, "Oh, they don't know what's wrong with me." And I persisted and said, "You have to go back." I knew what I was saying, what I was seeing, and I'm not going to say what it was, but I knew what I was seeing.
Hmm.
And I called her that Monday and I said, "Did you call yet?" And she said yes. And she actually had a very major diagnosis. And if she hadn't gone, she would have passed away. Um,
Wow. Wow.
so, she comes to see me every year at one particular year, and she's very sweet. Um, so there's things like that, but there's also the times where I open up a chart, and you see something and you question yourself for a minute, like, am I really seeing what I'm seeing? And
Right.
you say it to the person, and sometimes they hang up that phone or they get off the Zoom or whatever it is, and they walk away kind of like, what was that lady talking about? And
Hmm.
I always get an email, a phone call, or a message later, like, "It happened. Do you have
Hmm.
time for another appointment?" I try
Hmm.
to remind myself as I see the thing, or I remind people I see it before it happens. So it
Hmm.
might seem a little bit off to you,
Hmm.
but these things are happening. But the other big one that sticks out is, I had a gentleman come to me and he was looking at me like I was nuts. And I said, do me a favor, do me a
Hmm.
solid, walk around your house. There's something wrong with the outside of your home. It looks like your house is going to catch on fire. I know I sound nuts. And what ended up happening is he had a bush that was growing underneath his house and almost hitting his electrical. So that was
Oh.
another one. But my favorite, honestly, my truly favorite ones though, is when somebody comes to you and they feel very lost or their business isn't doing well, and you can actually give them the tools to actually help them and put them in another direction. I
Yeah.
think sometimes people get really stuck because they think it has to be one way, or they think they have to go the way that everyone else is going, but everybody's chart is singular to them. So
Hmm.
if you're following somebody else's path or somebody else's way, you're going to miss your way. And
I agree.
so
I
that's
agree.
my favorite thing to do, is to show
Yeah.
people, like, you don't have to go the same way as everyone else, because this is what's going to work for you.
Yeah, I think that's with people in general, right? It's
Yeah.
like, don't follow the crowd. Like if you like this, go for it. If you like that,
Yeah.
do it. You don't have to always do what everybody else is doing. And sometimes that's
Well, I
the
think
biggest and best gift.
it's
Yeah.
one of those things where it's like there are some of us that were meant to be in the crowd, and there
Hmm.
are some of us that weren't meant to be in the crowd, and there's some of us
Yes,
that work better independently, and there's some of us that work better in tandem, right? And not
totally.
one is better than the other, but it's just about accepting what works for you.
I love that. Yeah, I think uh everyone needs followers and everyone needs to lead at some point. I think it's kind of interchangeable, or it can be, right? Based on, again, experiences and tools that you have. And I think it
Right.
sounds like all your tools can help anyone with either or. Yeah, I love that. And really the improvements overall, I think is
Yeah.
is such a big gift that you can provide for people. In many ways, not just, reassurance, but like, hey, I finally overcame this. I finally got through this. I finally committed to this. Whatever it is, I feel like, more people can come to that realization and be open to it, I think, all the better for everybody, truthfully.
Absolutely.
That's how I look at it. I think you're doing amazing work. I see you everywhere. What is the best way for people to kind of reach out to you? What any upcoming things that you have or places that you are typically or what's the best way for people to find you?
So you can visit starsister.net, which is my website. We're going to be changing it a little bit soon, but
Okay.
starsister.net, and then or you could just call or text 203-768-8965 for an appointment. But either or, you can go on and make an appointment. And then I read at Body Energy Center in Prospect by appointment only,
Okay.
at Holistic Dragon in Watertown by appointment only. Um, and then I am at different fairs. So I'm trying to think. The next one that I'm doing, I believe, is at the Red Barn in
Okay.
Durham, and that is
Oh yes, I
on
saw that. I did see that.
June
Yeah.
June 14th. So again, you can call that number or text that number if you want to get in ahead of time.
Okay.
I usually do 30-minute or 1 hour readings at the fairs, and they are so sweet to me there. They're gracious enough to give me my own room with a door. So,
Oh yeah, they're wonderful. The Red Barn is wonderful. And you'll accept pre-bookings for the
yep,
June 14th event? Great,
yep.
great, wonderful, wonderful. Angela, this is wonderful, and I really enjoyed hearing a little more than I typically have, and kind of delved in a little deeper with you. I love that. Anything else you want to share with us before we part ways?
Thanks for having me. And
Okay.
I always say, if you're feeling a little lost on your path, or you're just curious about your birth chart, or you're really thinking about, like, what is my soul really here to accomplish? Just go and make an appointment. You won't regret it. I'm a lot of fun.
You are a lot of fun, and I appreciate you. Thanks for taking the time today, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Awesome.
Okay,
Take care.
take care.